Standard solutions are defined so that standard workflow can be derived. Whether it is right or wrong, whether it is required or not, we have to validate the specification, then we have to build. Services has to be available all the time and the recovery rate must be very high. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Rohini TS from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So today we are learning with B.C.A's third year, that is semester 5 of a subject called Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics, and we are in the unit 2 of a last session, that is session 5. And as we all know that the unit name is Cloud Solutions. So in our today's session, we are going to learn with the new contents of the unit 2. So this include storage, cloud. So management of a storage in the cloud is also going to play a very important role. So as we all know that storage management in cloud can help organization to address their challenges around the data and storage management in their clouds. So here you can see some of the challenges which needs to be faced by the organization in order to have a better storage management. So they have to think about the availability of data at all the time. So that means it has to be available all the time whenever or wherever, however the user requirements allowed or which is going to arise. And then storage resource and its proper utilization, and then public applications performance, and also we have to take care about the longer restore times. That means for example, if something goes wrong, if some natural disasters happens, at that time you should not take much time in order to recover back from the failure. So we have to think about the longer restore times, and also higher storage cost. Cost is also be high when the storage capacity also increases. Then low productivity of storage personnel. There could be a chances of low activity or low productivity of a storage personnel, and also it increase the risk of data loss and downtime. So if some system crash occurs or some hackers breaches all the security aspects, at that time there will be an increase in the risk of data, and also it will going to loses the data along with downtime. So these are the challenges there will be a possibility of facing when we have the data and information, that is storage management having a relation with a cloud. So this cloud or a storage cloud will going to have some of the points related to value proposition, some challenges will be there, and business drivers will be there, and it will going to provide some of the benefits. Along with that, we have a product solution overview and then product solution description. So we'll see about the value proposition. So here value proposition is mainly related to reducing of a cost. So mainly it has to provide a high flexible storage capacity with a reasonable cost. That is the value proposition. So it has to reduces the complexity of managing the cloud environment by offering a complete portfolio of automated solutions for managing the data and storage infrastructure. It needs to be automated, then it must be easy for the usage of a clients or any organization. So in order to get benefit from this storage cloud, and also data and storage management is needed to provide a reliable on-demand service experience and reduces the cost and risk. So when we are dealing any of the data and information over the management, like when the storage is managing all those data and information on the cloud, then it is needed to provide a reliable. That means we have to trust that system, and it has to provide the data and information on the basis of on-demand service experience, and it's supposed to reduce the cost and risk of storing the data and information in the storage. Then cloud vendor offers technologies. It will going to offer some of the technologies to the cloud vendor, like storage, hardware, along with the software to support the subscribers. So those who are getting the informations, or those who are subscribed to the storage cloud management, at that time it will going to give storage hardware and some of the supporting tools or software to the subscribers as a offer. This is regarding value proposition. We'll see about the challenges. So when it comes to the challenges, we have to think in the perspective of administrator as well as in the terms of customer. So when it comes to the cloud administrator, they have to worry about the data availability and application performance, and they have to think about the high capital and operating cost. So because they have to pay then less return on investment. So if they are not getting the revenue as much as they invested, then there could also be one of the problem, or that is also somehow considered as a challenge. Then utilization of a storage resources. If a storage resource is not utilizing properly, then that is also one of the challenge, and efficient and effective usage of a storage is also important. And lack of automation. So if there is no automations, or if it is not responding to the requirement of a customer on demand, then that is also one of the challenge. So when it comes to the challenges with perspective of a customer, that includes paying for only what they use. So are they charging only for the things what we are using? So that could also be challenge. If they are costing more, or if they are charging more, then that is also one of the important challenge. And cutting cost. So like if they are giving the services for 200 rupees, but if they are cutting 250 rupees or 300 rupees, then there will be a loss for the user or a customer. Then also monthly payment. So when it reaches to the end of a month or end of that services, they have to think about payments of the services what they are taking. And also standardized system, then we have a updated version. So if they are not getting updated version, then that is also one of the challenge. So these are the challenges which needs to be faced by both administrators as well as in the perspective of customer. Now we'll see about the business drivers. So this standardization and automations of storage services meets service level consistency. Main thing is what? We have to think about the standardization. So if there is no standardization, then there will be a breaching of security, and nobody will going to obey the rules and regulations. So there must be some standardization, there must be some portfolio that needs to be managed, or that needs to be followed by the customer as well as the vendor. So here standardization and automation both will going to plays a very important role in the storage services. So here simplified management of the storage infrastructure, there will be a data security and compliance issues, and that will going to lowering the cost. So when it comes to the business drivers, so we have to think about lowering the cost, and there must be a data security and compliance issues needs to be solved as soon as possible, and the management should be simpler in the terms of storage infrastructure, and also it has to by using standardization and automation, it has to meet the level of consistency. So now we'll see some of the benefits related to having this storage cloud. What is the usage of bundling of hardware, software as a services, and that needs to be reached to the customer. That means they are storing their data and information with the help of cloud. Then what are the benefits they can get? Improving the service level, and it reduces the capital and operational expenses, because we are taking it as a service. No need to pay anything for the expenses which is going to take place in the initial days or as a capital investments, because service providers are giving all these without taking any money for the capital investment, so that it will be reduce the capital cost, and it optimize the utilization of storage resources. Proper utilization or optimization of a utilization of that storage devices or storage resources is also possible when there will be a guidance for usage of a proper storage, and also it reduces the hardware, software and administrator cost, because we are getting all these hardware, software and services as a service from the cloud. So there will be reduce in the cost. Managing the risk and streamline compliance. This helps to manage the risk, and it will going to have a streamline compliance. So these are the benefits we can get with the help of this storage cloud. Next we'll see about the product solution overview and product solution descriptions. So here storage management software and service solutions will going to be integrated together in order to ensure that business and IT are fully aligned and supported by the integrated service management. By combining the storage management software and service solutions, this will going to provide a solution which is required in the business as well as in the IT. So this will going to improve the capacity and capability in order to provide the integrated cloud service offerings in order to meet the storage management needs. So when it comes to the product solution description, at that time customer need not to pay anything for the hardware, software or the services what they are taking. So whatever they are using as service, for that only they have to pay. So this will going to reduces the capital investment and also reduces the operational cost. So that here clients have saved the money and can increase the flexibility. So this will going to improve the performance of a customer or a client. So now we will see the next topic that is related to cloud management. So now we're done with the storage management. Now it is mandatory or necessary to store the or in order to manage the cloud. So how we are going to manage the cloud? In order to provide a value, IT cost model has to be like having some of the IT cost model, we are able to maintain or to manage the cloud. So it is supposed to be equitable, it must be controllable, repeatable, predictable and simple. So I have to have a control over the components or what are the activities taking place, predictable what will going to take place in future, and it must be simple for use and also comprehensive, and it's supposed to be service based model. So it should not be subjective, it must be objective in nature, and also service based model offers cost transparency and cost reduction options. So if we are having all these options, then there will be a better utilization of a service. So now we'll see about the main important topic, that is resiliency. So here resiliency is nothing but the system or a capacity that has to take place in order to rapidly adopt the changes, like it has to recover very fastly from the failures and it must be able to adapt the changes of an environment. That process will be termed as what? Resiliency. So it's the capacity or a capability in order to rapidly adopt and respond to the risk as well as the opportunities. Process has to know that whenever the opportunities comes, at the time it has to be very conscious in order to grab the opportunities, and whenever something goes wrong, some failures occurs, at that time it must be ready to take that risk, and also it has to easily and rapidly adopt the changing requirement, and it has to respond to the risk as well as the opportunities. So this maintains continuous business operations that will going to support the and operates in potential adverse condition. This improves the efficiency of a system and also helps in order to improve the performance of an organization. So if it is static, if it is not responding, or if it is not recovering from the failure stage, that will be considered as a challenge for the cloud management. So it has to be very quick in order to rapidly adopt the changes and risk which going to be appeared. So this resiliency will going to be act as a blueprint that includes different layers, like it has the facilities, techniques and technology, applications and data as well as the processes. And also this framework enables the people to examine the business and they can understand what areas are vulnerable and that might exist and quickly pinpoint areas of a concern and help them understand what actions they can take in order to reduce the risk associated with these areas. So if you are not getting the guidance from what is happening actually and what will gonna happen, if you don't have any idea regarding that, then there will be a chances of losing of a data and information. If there is no management, then there will be more risk or high risk. At that time, this resilience concept will going to showcase us, or it will going to examine the business and it will going to understand what are the areas which are vulnerable to attacks. So then how can we guide that? So what are the preventive measures or controlling methods that we can take place in order to avoid that from the vulnerability or vulnerable to the attacks? And also this will going to help in order to quickly pinpoint the areas of a concern. So whatever the areas that we have in order to take care, and also helps them to understand what action has to be takes place in order to improve the utilization, or in order to improve the opportunity and to reduce the risk. This is related to resiliency, and also this resiliency has some of the capabilities. So from a facilities perspectives, like here we are going to have different perspective. On what perspective this resiliency is giving the capability or having the capability, that we can see here. From the facilities perspective, so you may need to implement power protection. So there must be power protection in the terms of facility, but when it comes to the security perspective, so there it has to protect the applications and data. So in the perspective of process, so it needs to implement the identifications and documentations of most critical business process. In the perspective of organizational perspective, so it will concern about the geographical diversity and backing up of the data and workstation data. And from the strategy and vision perspective, so you would want to have a crisis management. So on the basis of security perspective, on the basis of facility perspective, on the basis of customer, on the basis of organization, and on the basis of strategy and vision perspective, it has to satisfy all the risk, and it has to grab all the opportunities which will going to appear in all the stages of an organization, or as well as in the cloud. And we have a provisioning. So as we all know that provisioning is a process, is a service that uses group of compliant processes called solution realization. So provisioning, in the sense we are providing some services. So here also it is a service that uses group of compliant process, that is it is a collection of or a bundle of different services. So by making use of that, we are going to get benefits. So that is also considered as what? Solution realization. So here provisionized products are servers built with all the software and infrastructure which is required to support business applications. So when we are working with this provisioning, at that time it is these are the servers which will going to build on the basis or with all the software, hardware and services that we require in order to support the business application. Main intention of this provisioning is what? It has to be automated and it has to reach the customer as soon as possible in the terms of services, and standard solutions are defined so that standard workflow can be derived. So some standard solutions are there, but with the help of that standard solution we can get the benefit. Server hardware is assembled, cabled and connected to the network and SAN before work orders are released. That means everything is ready to use, so we just need to get that service. So in the terms of network or in the terms of automation, everything is available all the time. And also it will going to provide some of the opportunity which is related to planning precedes execution. So we have to plan, then we have to execute. So that then validating build specification precedes building. So before building that, I have to think about the specifications, what and all it requires. I have to validate it, whether it is right or wrong, whether it is required or not. We have to validate the specification, then we have to build. It also includes an approach related to package software installation on respective servers, and also having servers racked and stacked, cabled and connected to storage and network precedes issuing work orders. So before getting the work orders, it has to be stacked, it has to be cabled, connected, everything needs to be get ready, then only they can take the work orders. These are the approaches that we can take place, or it will going to have some of the activities. And what are the benefits we can get with the help of this cloud management? Mainly it has the ability to measure the progress of all the work related to one RFCs, and also mainly it has a continuous improvement activities which is based on the process measurement. Mainly what is the first advantage or a benefit? It has the ability to measure the progress. So we can measure the progress in all the activities which is related to RFCs, and also that it has a continuous improvement activities which is based on the process measurement. And also that means how much process has been done per second or per minute. So all the improvement, continuous improvement and fluctuations, it will going to be respond to all the activities which will going to be takes place. Then isolation of the built, install, configuration and custom task from requirements design and hardware setup activities. It will going to take care about all the kinds of management from the building, from the installing, configuring and its storage space. Along with that, customize the task from requirement design as well as from the hardware setup activities, and also role players performing a finite set of repeatable activities. So if a resource is managed or utilized by particular user, then the services will going to be repeated. Same services will going to be repeated to another customer also, irrespective of their location, irrespective of their time and date, what they are asking for, irrespective of anything, they are going to provide a service. An assembly line approach to provisioning, all the time it is available for the provisioning, and achieve the operational efficiencies by using a common set of processes and procedures to deliver a provisioning services to the enterprise. So when there is a provisioning, there will be automation as well as there will be solution which is available all the time. And also it achieves the target environment defect rates. That means the defect rate must be low. So if the defect rate must be low, then the productivity will be very high and risk will be low. And also it establish and achieve the service level objectives. Along with that, it reduces the time to set, development and test environment, because when we are having a efficient management of a cloud, it has to reduce the times in the terms of development as well as the testing environment. It has to be available online and it has to be dynamic in nature. And also it reduces the hardware or software spending through optimization, because it has a fast recovery. So it has to reduce the time for the optimization of hardware as well as the software. It has to reduce the enterprise provisioning standard. Then only it will be available to everybody. So these are the benefits that we can expect in the terms of cloud management and resiliency. So and also it will going to have some of the short term objectives. So mainly in order to reduce the defect rate, and it has to improve and provide the consistency. There must be a consistency. If you are having any of the services, then there must be a consistency. Along with that, it transfers the skills and knowledge of new standard processes and procedure. And we can have a gain stakeholder agreement, and it reduces the rework, because there will be a repeatable things can be takes place, and it improves the quality of work experience. So these are the short term objectives which will going to be set by this cloud management. Next we'll see about the asset management. So as we all know that asset management is also going to be very important. Like all the managements are important. Like I wanted to manage the storage, I wanted to manage the activities, I wanted to manage the operational activities which is taking in the organization, and it is also necessary to maintain or manage the assets. Asset in the sense that includes software, hardware, some of the services, everything will be considered as an asset of the organization. So here we have to think about the asset management. So asset management and change management interact regularly. That means there will be a correlation between the asset management and change management. So this asset management has some of the strategies. So we have to think about the software packaging and incident management. That means if something goes wrong, what are the things or what are the activities that we can perform in order to recover from that failures. And also pool management service must be available all the time, and release management, configuration management, system management, operational readiness management, and backup management. This is related to security. We'll see the first one, that is related to software packaging. So here asset management will going to be relies on, or which depends on the software packaging. So why we are depending on this software packaging? Because it will only engage software packaging directly when there is an exception. So if some exception cases is there, at that time this asset management has a capability in order to interact with the software packages. Next is what? Incident management. So mainly this AM or asset managements are used in order to track any interruptions or issues which is related to asset management services. So if any issues which occurs related to asset management like interruptions or issues, then that is also going to be managed by the AM. And also this AM is used as an entry point to problem management. Like it will going to act as a bodyguard or a security for the management of all the assets of a organizations or a cloud. So if it is not allowing it inside, then any of the interruptions or any of the issues will not going to takes place. And also we have a pool management. So it works with the asset management to make sure that the products are requested are available on the requested date. For example, we are requesting some services to the cloud. At the time, that cloud management or that cloud services has to be ready with the services, like it has to have the product which is requested by the customer or a client, and it has to deliver that product on date or on time. So PM serves as the intermediary process between the assets management and IOD processes as well as the activities. Next, we have a release management. So this will going to take care and controls about the scheduling and also testing of additional and updates to the environment. So release management in the sense what? It has to release the new packages, it has to release the new updation which is all to the existing package. So then only it will going to improve the efficiency of a organization or a service. So when it comes to the configuration management, at the time it will going to help and the time of absence of a process with its own repository for asset and inventory items. This will going to guides or it will going to takes place in the absence of process with its own repository of the assets and inventory items. And also it has a system management. It will going to take care about both the processes as well as the service. And also we have this backup management. It will going to links to the backup management after the new server is added to the backup script. So if any new server is added to the data center, at that time for that server also we have to provide a backup facility. So these are the strategies we have to follow when we are having this asset management. We'll see about the cloud governance. So cloud governance in the sense there must be some fairness, there must be some standards, or there must be some framework in order to work with a cloud. So when this cloud governance comes into existence, it is going to be broken into some of the categories. So it includes regulation of new service creations and getting more use of services and enforcing standards and best practices, and also service change management and service version control. As well know that governance in the sense what? There must be some standardization or there must be some framework in order to utilize the services. So we'll see about the cloud management. So this includes all the benefits. We have to follow some of the intellectual property. We should not harm any of the feelings of any of the user over the internet, and data regulations. Service level must be high, and identity federation. It has to be able to exchange of data from one user to another user, and it has to allow the user to take a data and services from any number of vendors. And also interoperability and monitoring, security policy, audits will be there, performance indicators and cost benefit analysis. Some standards must be there, templates, processes, policies. So this governance include these many content, and also this compliance include all these points. So it has a reversibility, intellectual property, IPR and data regulations, identity federation, service level and interoperability. And also this cloud management, when we are managing the cloud, at the time we have to take care about the opportunities and risk. How we are going to grab the opportunities and how we are going to diagnose the risk, so that here higher risk or a high availability and disaster recovery will be considered as very important factor for the cloud deployment. So we have to be all the time available. That means services has to be available all the time, and the recovery rate must be very high. So it should not relay, or it should not stay, or it should not be static in the time of recovering from failure to diagnose activities. So it has to be very quick. Recovery of a disaster. So something goes wrong, system crashes happen, some natural disasters happen. At that time, this cloud management must be strong enough to overcome from all those activities. And also this includes, that means how can I say that this cloud is managing in an efficient manner? Only when it has high availability of the services and when it has a disaster recovery as soon as possible. So it includes mean time to recovery, that means from the time of occurrence of a failure at the time of its recovery from the failure, and high availability, continuous operations, then continuous availability, availability management, and disaster recovery. So then what is this disaster recovery? Is the process of creating, verifying and maintaining an IT continuity plan that is to be executed to restore the services in the event of disaster. So even any something goes wrong or any natural disaster happens, at that time it should not stop the user from getting the services from the cloud. So it has to be able, or it is a process of creating, verifying and maintaining and giving the IT continuity plan that is to be executed. It needs to get beneficial and it has to restore the services at the time of its occurrence of any disaster. And also this disaster recovery plan includes procedures that will ensure the optimum availability of the critical business functions and protections of vital records. So if some natural disaster happens, at the time if we have this disaster recovery plan, that will going to save the our confidential data, that will going to save the storage of the particular files and all of the organization in a safer manner. So that is disaster recovery. And also an availability strategy is required in order to guide the organization in implementing high availability and support the rapid recovery from the disaster. So it has to be organization has to be have the features of high availability. Along with that, its recovery rate must be very high. So then only we can give the services, or we can render the services to the customer on time in order to keep their trust. So it includes charging models, usage reporting, billing and metering, and these charging models are like approaches taken to recover expenses. It is like what taking the recovery from the failures. So if some natural disaster happens or some availability of resources goes wrong, at that time the charging models will going to be takes place in order to recover the expenses. So now we'll see about the challenges what will going to be faced by the cloud management. So here many organizations do not implement sophisticated internal chargeback mechanism due to the complexities. Some of the organization is not going to implement sophisticated techniques. At that time they can't recover from the failure, so then the availability will be very low. So at that time it will going to why they are not using this sophisticated internal activities or a chargeback mechanism, somehow it is complex in nature, and you have to be able to determine all the metrics and to be able to break them out by users, and you have to keep track of what organization the users are in. So what are the users, who are all the users, what they are doing, how they are utilizing the resources, we have to keep on tracking. So that will be considered as a challenge. And what are the benefits we can get with the help of this charging models? This charging models build transparency to enterprise cost and help companies to figure out increase resources and also weed out waste. So that means what this charging models will going to give you. For example, you are taking a management of cloud of your organizations. At the time you have to pay something. So if we have a charging models, that charging models will going to be very transparent. So if you are using this much of services, then the charge will going to be takes place this much. So by having the transparency, it will be helpful for the enterprise in order to get to know what is happening, how much are we supposed to pay. So these cloud chargeback models include standard subscription based model, pay per use model, and premium pricing model, and hybrid model. I will give you the brief introduction regarding this, all these chargeback models. So here, standard subscription based model, whether you are going to use it or not, so you have to pay for something. For example, if 10 customers are there, so you just imagine 10 customers are there and total rate of that particular charge is 1000 rupees. At the time, whether you are using that resources or not, so that this 1000 rupees will going to be divided or distributed to all the 10 customers, those who have opted that chargeback model. So that is related to standard subscription based model and pay per use model. So in this, we are going to pay only for the services that we have taken. So that is related to pay per use. So there will be some charging models, there will be some metering capabilities. With the help of that, it will going to charge or it will going to cost the amount based on your usage. And we have a premium pricing model. Somehow it is like updated version of this standard subscription as well as this pay per use model. So premium pricing version is like a premium version, so it will be available for some times. So if you wanted to continue the services, you have to pay for that. It is like a trial and error. So if you wanted to have any of the softwares or if you wanted to use any of the software, then they are going to give you 30 days trial. So once the trial version is over, then you have to pay, then you have to join to that subscription. Same thing will going to be takes place in the chargeback model. And also we have a hybrid model. So it is a combination of any one of this, like you can take a premium, you can take a pay per use, or you can have a standard subscription. So these are the chargeback models that we have in the cloud management. So we'll see the IT infrastructure governance. So as I told, governance is related to what? There must be some fairness, there must be some rules and regulations in order to get the services. So it requires some level of policies and control mechanism that will going to define the boundaries and upload businesses. So if I get to know what are the boundaries, then there will be a easiness, or there will be the things will going to be very smooth. If you know the boundaries. So what can be done, what cannot be done in the cloud, if you get to know all the boundaries, then the business activities will going to be improved. So this IT infrastructure governance, there can be many features that are instrumental in improving of flexibility and virtualization runtime environment. This will going to have some of the characteristics or features. So it has some of the basic requirement, which includes fairness, control, repeatability, and it must be simplicity. So that chargeback algorithm needs to be very easy to understand, and it must be simple to use by any of the organizations or any of the customers, should be inexpensive to implement. And when it comes to the repeatability, the chargeback models should be repeatable and predictable. So the activities must be repeatable in nature. And control, business unit should have a degree of control over input into and IT spending decisions. Fairness in the sense what? One group should not be subsidizing IT usage at the expense of another. So as I told, if I have a 10 resources, if the resources are used, like if one of the person is not using that resources, if all other 9s are using it expensively, at that time the burden should not be rely on this particular person, one who is not at all using the service. So there must be some fairness. So by keeping all these things, there will be a privilege in order to manage the cloud in a efficient manner. I hope you all understood. Here I have listed out some of the important questions from the unit 2. I hope this will going to help you in order to get more marks in your examination. This is about today's session. In my next session, I will be starting with a unit 3, that is Introduction to Big Data Acquisition, Collection and Transmissions. So until that, you all keep learning, keep growing. Thank you.